Man, I ain't gonna lie, I get sick of talking about this. I don't know what's more tiresome. The videos about Karen and the baby, or Danny and how she's been treating Preston for the past several episodes. And it's funny because I just recorded a lengthy video about Bio and Sabrina and how honestly both sides were wrong. On the one hand, Sabrina acting like she doesn't, you know, there was no catch or any strings attached to the 1.5 million Bio put up for Maurice. But on the other hand, it's like, yo, Bio, if you really had intentions with Sabrina, you should have said that from the jump. It's like, well, Sabrina, I'll put up the money for your friend, but I want you to do X, Y, and Z. We'll go out this, that, and the third. But he didn't. So does he have the right to be angry when she friend zones him? Meh. Go watch the video to get my full thoughts on that. It's like 20 plus minutes long, but I feel like you already know how I feel about it. Now, in this situation, we gotta, well, hey, the pot calling the kettle black. I mean, both Preston and Danny have done wrong, but honestly, I feel like Tyler forced the Mindy plot in there, and then like Zach giving Preston advice to date other women to make Danny jealous. I feel like Mignon going hard for Danny for quite a while. Me and her have kind of, I think a couple times we kind of went back and forth on Twitter at some point because Danny, I feel like her arguments make no sense for why Danny behaves the way she does towards Preston. I think one of the worst examples is the whole thing about you're a grown man. I shouldn't have to tell you or explain to you how to love a woman or a black woman. And it's like, there are so many reasons why I disagree with that. And I think, the number of times Preston has walked to her apartment, knocked on the door, and came in right as she has another man leaving from the night before. And yet the only argument she could make against Preston, you always show up unannounced. And it's like, well, you just had a whole nother man leave and you don't want to address this. You always want to talk about some old shit. I feel like the Mindy stuff was just thrown in there. That way Preston could have some sort of kinks in his armor. So I guess you could say that Danny could throw them in his face. It's like, well, what about Mindy? And what about this other? It's like, no, it's just stupid because your arguments make no sense. Danny's trash. And I feel like this episode just showcased these three women at their worst. I think somebody said that I never thought I would watch an episode of Sistas where Karen was the least problematic. And I said that, I mean, she might be putting on an act for Zach right now, but you're right. She was the least problematic. I mean, yeah, she did. She's still coming over to Zach's house unannounced and all. And yeah, that's messed up. But overall, I feel like, Danny just, what makes it worse? Yes, Preston had a fiance. Yes. Yet he still stayed with Danny. And I feel like that, and even Danny called out how awkward this entire situation was. The difference being, and I'm not saying one situation is necessarily better than the other, whether it be Preston with a fiance, yet he still went over to Danny. And then Danny with a boyfriend, yet she still messed around with Tony. I think the key difference here is this. Preston made it clear what his situation was / relationship status and what his intentions were with Danny. Like, look, I'm engaged to Mindy, but I still want to figure out this thing that we got going, Danny. His order of operations were really mixed up. Not to mention, it really looked bad because he made that flimsy proposal to Danny, and then he ended up giving that same ring to Mindy. That was not a good look. Some people say that, that's pretty much Preston kind of showing Danny that he has options. So it's like, hey, you know what, Danny, time's running out. So yeah, there was some manipulation going on there, debatably. But with Danny, I feel like what makes her look so bad in this is the fact that not only did she initiate the relationship with Preston, but not even 24 hours into the relationship, she's already, interacting and entertaining the idea of getting to know another man. Then she leaves work, for a couple hours early, being very secretive about it, doing the same sneaky shit where she doesn't want to talk to Preston about stuff and, make it clear. I mean, you could just tell him right now, it would suck, but she just wants to hold on to Preston while messing around with some other guy. And I think at the very core of it, the only reason Danni agreed to let Preston stay was because he saved her ass from Jonah, and she was afraid that he might come back and try to finish her off. That's really what it boils down to, in my opinion. That's the only reason she gave a damn about Preston staying. All because of Jonah. And I think that's really messed up, because just like Sabrina using Bio for the money to get Maurice out of jail, Danni was using Preston as a bodyguard against Jonah if he ever came back. Yet this creeper at your job somehow caught your eye, and now you're entertaining the idea of seeing him again. And I mean, it's not only the fact that she's completely dismissive of her own fuck-ups, but the fact that she acts like Preston is the one with the problem. Oh, throughout the episode, oh, Preston, I don't want to talk to him. He came to my job and he was all jealous and talking about how he had a spare key to my car. And I'm like, you're just going to completely ignore the fact that you left your apartment a couple hours early, which he called you out on, to meet up with a guy that you hung out with the night before, and making plans to hang out with him again that same night. And then you fast forward to when Tony comes over to her desk and is like, so what's up with you and Preston? Well, we're trying to figure things out. And it's like, figure things out? You're the one who said you wanted a relationship, and now you're the one who's acting funny about it. And then you fast forward again to when she goes over to Sabrina's apartment, and instead of going, it's like, I don't want to go back home and change. I'll just borrow one of your outfits because, Preston showed up to the job and whatnot. And I said, first of all, you're going to wear the Pepto-Bismol, pair of heels and carry that purse instead of going home. But then I'm like, you know how awkward that would be for her to go home from work? Preston wants to talk about what happened earlier that day. Danni, because if I remember correctly, he said, well, I'll come back for your lunch break. She's like, no, you don't come back. No. So basically it's like, so I catch you with some other guy that you work with, and instead of addressing the situation, you're just shooing me away. And when I want to come back during your lunch break to talk about it, you don't want me to do that. So basically, you're pushing me, your boyfriend, away so you can hang out with this guy, your work husband. No, this isn't right. So I'm like, what if she would have went back to her apartment and she's getting ready to go on a date with this guy that Preston literally saw her interacting with? Can you imagine that? Like, say you're living with your significant other, and you catch them in a seemingly, I don't want to say compromising position, but a situation that makes you wonder a few things. Basically, it's like you versus the guy she tells you not to worry about meme. And your significant other gets home, and while you want to talk about this other person, guess what? They're getting dressed because they're about to go on a date with this other person and leave you at home. Make it make sense. Danni is full of it, just like Sabrina and Andy. And the fact that she's for the streets. Danni made it clear she doesn't know what she wants, but honestly, the sex must be incredible, because what the hell does Preston see in this woman? I honestly don't know. I mean, we don't know Mindy all that well either, but I just, Mindy's the right fit. I think the safe pick is just the wrong way of putting it, but she seems like a more stable choice than Danni, because this makes no sense whatsoever. Why in the hell is Preston so damn determined? It just comes down to Tyler's writing, not wanting to get rid of the character. So I don't know. This Danni is trash for the way that she's doing Preston, and whatever comes from her interacting with Tony, she deserves it. Now, I'm hoping that doesn't involve her being spat on or beaten on again, but it's like, this dude had a awful first impression, seems like a creep, stalker, yet you decide to go out with him as opposed to Rodeo, your boyfriend, at home. You just leave him high and dry. Oh, excuse me. You literally left him home high the day before without even checking on him. Then when you finally get home, you're glowing from your experience with those 3 other guys, and now you're like just ignoring him. Preston, get your shit. I hope that when she gets home from that date, Preston is already packed up and gone, because he deserves better than this shit. Danni's for the streets. It's ridiculous. She's going to wind up missing that black man. Yeah, I said it. Well, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. She's just she's a deflector. She avoids confrontation. She could do all this foul shit, but heaven help Preston if, let's say, he decides to call off the relationship because Danny's, trifling ways, and if she sees him with another woman, she's going to interrupt that date and then act like she's hurt. And it's like, Heifer, you're the one who cheated. Shut the hell up. But yeah, I'm done. Like and subscribe. I'll catch you in the next video.